The Hall of Nine Suns was built to make every species remember its place. The ceiling rose so high that thin white clouds drifted beneath the glass dome. Black stone covered the floor, polished until it reflected every face like dark water. Above the circular chamber, 9 artificial suns burned in slow motion, each one named after an empire the Star Accord had conquered and then called a partner. At the lowest seat in the room sat Earth's envoy. Her name was Mira Holt. She had sat in that same chair for 12 years. 12 years of cold smiles. 12 years of jokes about humans being clever animals with engines. 12 years of being told Earth was too young, too emotional, too weak, too loud, too dangerous, and somehow still too small to matter. Mira had learned to smile through all of it. She had learned the bowing rituals of the Valen. She had memorized the war songs of the Targan. She had eaten food that burned her throat and praised it as a cultural honor. She had listened while smaller species were punished in the language of law. And she had waited. Across the chamber, First Voice Arkan rose from his golden chair. He was tall and pale, with 6 glassy eyes and hands thin enough to look gentle. His voice always sounded calm, even when it carried death. "The Star Accord has completed its review of Earth," Arkan said. The translation lights blinked above every seat. Mira placed both hands flat on the table. Arkan continued, "Earth will surrender control of its outer colonies. All human warships above patrol class will be dismantled under Accord supervision. 30% of Earth's yearly metal, fuel, and food production will be redirected for regional stability." A few delegates nodded. To them, this was normal. The Accord had done it to many worlds before. First came review, then came correction, then came tribute, then came children taken into shared service, then came flags displayed in museums beside old weapons and dead languages. Mira glanced at the smaller envoys near the far wall. Most stared at the floor. They already knew how this ended. Arkan leaned forward, and his soft voice filled the hall. "The Earth will receive your response now." For the first time that day, Mira lifted her eyes. She looked around the chamber slowly, not with fear, not with anger, with memory. She looked at every face that had smiled while worlds were broken. Then she reached into her sleeve and touched the tiny black bead hidden under the cloth. Accord security had scanned it 3 times. They thought it was a mourning charm. It was not. A channel opened far away, bouncing through dead moons, silent wrecks, forgotten mining relays, and one buried transmitter beneath the ice of Mars. Mira spoke 4 quiet words. They finally said it. Then she closed the channel. The hall waited. Arkan's smile faded just a little. "Explain yourself." Mira leaned back in the lowest chair in the galaxy. "No." The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted. Claws struck tables. Guards reached for weapons. Varric laughed again, louder this time, but the sound died before it finished. Above the main doors, the station clock read 1822. Outside Vera Station, in the silent dark, several stars began to disappear. Not because they had gone out, because something larger had moved in front of them. And for the first time in 40 years, humanity stopped pretending to be small. The ships behind the stars. And for the first time in 40 years, humanity stopped pretending to be small. Outside Vera Station, the dark filled with shapes. They were not beautiful ships. They had no bright sails, no gold markings, no proud banners glowing against the black. They were blunt, armored, silent things, built in hidden yards, tested behind dead moons, named in private by the crews who had slept beside their engines for years. The Star Accord had records of 12 human patrol fleets. The screens now showed 93, then 200,
Then the system map failed because it had not been designed to count that many human ships at once. Inside the Hall of Nine Suns, the shouting died in pieces. First Voice Arkin turned slowly toward Mira Holt. His 6 eyes no longer looked kind. "What have you done?" Mira sat in the lowest chair in the galaxy and answered calmly, "What you taught us to do." The Targan warlord Varric bared his teeth. "Earth was allowed only patrol craft." Mira looked at him. "Earth allowed you to believe that." A fresh alarm sounded. A station officer spoke through the chamber speakers. His voice cracked on the second word. "First Voice, human vessels are appearing near Accord relay towers, fuel depots, weapons platforms, and border gates. They are already inside defensive range." Arkin's hands tightened on the golden rail before him. "That is impossible." Mira's eyes stayed on him. "No, it was only boring. You never paid attention to boring." For 40 years, humanity had attended every technical tour, every trade hearing, every safety briefing. Human diplomats asked simple questions with polite smiles. How many power lines feed this station? Where do civilian evacuation routes begin? How are slave collars registered? What happens if a relay tower loses its central command? The Accord laughed at them. Young species, curious species, harmless species. But humans wrote things down. And when humans are afraid, they do not forget. A message appeared on every screen in the hall. "Stand down. Open civilian exits. Release all bonded workers. You have 3 minutes." The words appeared in every Accord language, then in every banned language. A quiet gasp moved through the smaller envoys near the wall. Arkin saw it. He saw hope, and it made him angrier than fear would have. "You think hidden ships make you rulers?" he asked. Mira shook her head. "No." "Then what are you?" For the first time, her voice carried pain. "We are the species you threatened in front of witnesses." The clock above the chamber doors changed to 1825. 3 minutes began to fall. Arkin lifted his hand to order the station guns to fire. Nothing happened. He lifted it again. Still nothing. Deep under Vera Station, below the golden halls and black stone floors, something clicked open in the dark. Then the lowest people in the station answered first.
The people under the floor. Then the lowest people in the station answered first. The voice came through every speaker. It was soft, rough, and old. "We hear Earth." For one breath, nobody moved. Mira's eyes widened. This was not part of the human plan, not officially. Arkin shouted, "Silence that channel!" A guard rushed to a wall panel. The panel died before his hand touched it. The voice spoke again. "We hear Earth. We are the hands under Vera. We are the ones who fixed your air, carried your waste, cleaned your blood, and buried your secrets." A small sound filled the hall. Click. Then another. Click. Then hundreds. Around Vera Station, copper collars opened and fell from thin gray necks. The Mavran had been called a service order for 200 years. Not citizens, not members, not even servants with names that mattered. They were the cleaners in the hallways, the hands in the pipes, the quiet shapes carrying tools through places powerful species never looked. The Accord had made them invisible. And invisible people hear everything. Near the chamber doors, a Mavran cleaner stared at the broken collar in his palm. He was small, with wide black eyes and hands too large for his thin arms. He looked as if he did not understand his own breathing. A Naren envoy beside him began to cry. The Targan warlord Varric reached for his weapon. The Mavran cleaner saw it. His hands shook badly. Still, he stepped in front of the Naren envoy. Varric laughed. "Move, floor rat!" The cleaner did not move. The wall behind Varric exploded inward. A human boarding pod punched through the chamber shell with a heavy metal scream. White smoke rolled across the black floor. Soldiers in dark armor stepped through, fast and controlled. Their weapons were raised, but not at the servants, not at the frightened envoys, only at the armed guards. A human officer called out, "Civilians down! Weapons down, now!" Varric fired. A blue pulse struck his hand before the shot crossed the room. His weapon fell. He roared in pain, alive but helpless. The human officer did not celebrate. She only moved to the next threat. More pods hit the station. One at the guard barracks, one at the command lift, one at the bonded worker registry. Across Vera, doors opened that had not opened freely in generations. Mavrin workers ran through halls they had scrubbed all their lives. Some carried children, some carried stolen key cards, some carried nothing but the shock of being unowned. Arkan watched his station betray him from the inside. Mira stood slowly. "You did this," Arkan hissed. Mira looked at the Mavrin cleaner still protecting the Naren envoy. "No," she said. "You did. We only listened when they spoke." Below them, a sealed prison door unlocked. The first battle for the galaxy began with a locked door opening.
The locked door. The first battle for the galaxy began with a locked door opening. It opened on level 12, where the Accord kept people who would become inconvenient. Human Sergeant Ilya Chen entered first. His visor showed 8 armed guards, 3 legal officers, and 32 prisoners. Then the scanner marked 6 smaller heat signs behind a glass wall. Children. Ilya felt his heart kick against his ribs. "Drop your weapons," he said. The guards answered with fire. The fight lasted 11 seconds. When it ended, the guards were alive on the floor, stunned and tied. The legal officers were face down with their own gold cords wrapped around their wrists. Ilya moved to the glass room. A small Mavrin girl stood inside, holding a broken pipe in both hands. Her face was dirty. One side of her head was shaved where a collar implant had been placed. She tried to look fierce. She was maybe 8 years old. Ilya removed his helmet. The girl raised the pipe higher. He placed his rifle on the floor and pushed it away with 2 fingers. Then he held up both empty hands. "I am not here to take you," he said. The girl's collar had been built to receive orders, not translate comfort. She did not understand the words, but she understood the rifle on the floor. Her pipe lowered by an inch. A Mavrin elder behind Ilya spoke in his own language, a language the Accord had banned from public systems. The girl froze. Then she began to cry. Across level 12, prisoners came out of cells. Naren teachers, Kasathi engineers, Targan dissidents, Mavrin children, people whose only crime had been remembering the world before the Accord corrected it. Some kissed the floor, some screamed, some stood silent because freedom was too large to understand at once. Ilya's team moved them toward the evacuation lifts. Then a young human analyst called over the secure line. "Sergeant, we found something behind the First Voice's private chamber." Ilya turned. "What kind of something?" "A vault." The vault was hidden behind a wall of white stone carved with the names of old Accord victories. It had no handle, no scanner, no visible seam. A Mavrin elder placed both wide hands on the stone. The wall opened. Cold air poured out.
Inside, thousands of memory crystals glowed on black shelves. Treaties, prison orders, secret maps, labor lists, assassination records, entire history stolen and rewritten. Mira arrived with 2 guards behind her. She stepped into the vault and felt the temperature drop around her. One crystal began to glow brighter than the others. It carried Earth's symbol. Mira touched it. The file opened. In the archive, Earth found the knife already aimed at its heart.
The knife. In the archive, Earth found the knife already aimed at its heart. The file opened in blue light. Species 1187, Humanity. Mira read in silence. Risk class, delayed apex. Primary danger, rapid learning under pressure. Secondary danger, loyalty beyond tribe, border, or bloodline. Prediction, high chance of resistance if threatened directly. Recommendation, force submission before full military maturity. Her hands went cold. The next file was worse. It was titled Cradle Silence. A map appeared. Earth, the Moon, Mars, the farms of Africa, the cities of Asia, the Atlantic power grids, the Pacific food routes, the water stations in orbit. Red marks covered them all. Not military targets, civilian ones. Mira felt the room tilt. "How long?" she asked. No one answered. The Maverin elder stood beside her. His old voice was very soft. 26 years. 26 years. While Earth sent songs to the stars. While human children learned alien words in school. While Mira sat in this station and listened to jokes about humans being too emotional for serious politics. The Accord had hidden weapons above her home. Arkan was brought to the vault in restraints. His face still tried to wear pride. Mira turned the file toward him. "You were going to burn cities." Arkan looked at the map as if it were simple paperwork. "We were going to prevent a future war." Mira stepped closer. "By murdering children? By saving the galaxy from you." For 1 second, no one breathed. Then Mira laughed once. It was not a happy sound. "You really believe that?" Arkan's eyes narrowed. Mira faced the analyst. "Copy everything." "All files?" "All files. Every prison, every color code, every stolen treaty, every weapon plan." The analyst swallowed. "That will shake half the galaxy." Mira looked back at Earth's map. "No," she said, "it will wake it." Within hours, the archive left Vera Station. It moved through human relays, pirate relays, temple relays, old mining radios, school networks, smuggler beacons, anything that could carry truth faster than fear. The galaxy saw what the Accord had done. Not rumors, not rebel songs. Proof. 1,000 worlds went silent. Then the messages began. Some were angry, some were terrified, some only asked if the files were real. Mira answered them herself in a broadcast from a plain human ship. "We are not building a human empire," she said. "We are building a table where no one has to kneel." She offered a name, the Open Table. The first reply came from a place that was not supposed to exist.
The prison moon. The first reply came from a place that was not supposed to exist. The message was broken, full of static, and sent through a stolen mining beacon. "This is Luma 3. We heard you. Are prisoners included?" Mira read it twice. The room around her went still. Luma 3 did not appear on public maps. It circled a green gas giant at the edge of Accord space. Officially, it was an abandoned mining moon. In the secret files, it was something else. A place for people who refused to disappear quietly. Teachers, union leaders, former soldiers, children of old royal families, Mavrin organizers, Nauran historians, Targan officers who had questioned orders. 14,000 prisoners. Mira looked at Sergeant Ilya Chen. He already knew. "Send ships," she said. 3 human rescue vessels jumped within the hour. Their leader was the Sparrow Knife, an old ship with patched armor and engines too loud to be elegant. Captain Nur Adeyemi stood on its bridge, silver beads tied into her hair, one scar under her left eye. She studied the moon on the screen. Gray ice, heat tents, guard towers, mine shafts deep enough to swallow cities. "Life signs?" her officer asked. 14,200, mixed species, many weak, some children. Noor's face hardened. "Defenses?" 6 patrol ships, tower guns, shock tag network. "Only 6 ships?" Her officer glanced at her. Noor sighed. They were proud enough to think no one would come. On the moon, an old Nauran prisoner named Arrow listened through a receiver made from stolen wire and a cracked food tray. He had 1 bad lung, 2 missing fingers, and a voice that still carried hope even when hope seemed foolish. The human reply came through as a whisper. "Luma 3, this is the Sparrow Knife. Stay low. Mark guards if safe. We are opening the cages." Arrow closed his eyes. For 20 years he had told the young ones the stars were not empty. He had never truly believed it. Now human engines burned above the clouds. The prison sirens screamed. Guards kicked prisoners into lines. Shock tags sparked. A tower gun turned toward a group of children. Then the tower folded in half under a silent human strike. Gates opened. Mines opened. Collars died. Prisoners did not run like animals. They moved like people who had been planning freedom in their dreams. The first shuttles dropped through the snow. Arrow lifted a child into his arms and laughed until his bad lung bled. Then the gas giant's shadow shifted. Behind the green planet, 70 Targan warships were waiting. The Targan Wall. Behind the green planet, 70 Targan warships were waiting. They came out of shadow with red shields and bone-white hulls, each ship painted with the jaw marks of old victories. The Sparrow Knife had 2 escort ships, 1 medical carrier, and a rescue barge. Against 70 warships, they were not a fleet. They were a promise with engines. A Targan admiral appeared on the main screen. He was huge, scarred, and covered in gold rings taken from defeated enemies. "I am Admiral Rogar," he said. "Human ships will leave. Prison property remains Accord property." Captain Nur looked at the prison moon below. 14,000 people. Open gates. Children running through snow. "No," she said. Targan's eyes sharpened. "No? People are not property." The Targan admiral smiled. "Then die for grammar." Nur muted the channel. Her bridge crew waited. She could retreat. She could save her crew. She could report the trap and return with a real fleet. But by then, the gates would close. By then, Luma 3 would become a grave. Nur turned to her officer. "Can open every rescue bay." "Captain, every bay." The Sparrow Knife dropped lower. Human shuttles fell through the storm like dark rain. They did not attack the Targan fleet first. They attacked prison locks, shock towers, fence generators, and mine doors. Targan admirals fired warning shots. Nur ignored them. The second volley would not be a warning.
Then one Targon cruiser broke formation. It turned sideways, placing itself between Rogar's flagship and the human rescue ships. Then another did the same. Then 5 more. On the Sparrow Knife, no one spoke. A private channel opened. A young Targon captain appeared. Her fur was dark. Her armor carried no victory rings. Her eyes were full of terror. "My name is Sava," she said. "My grandmother died on Luma 3. Your files say she was not a traitor. She was a teacher." Rogar's main guns began to glow. Sava looked over her shoulder, then back at Noor. "I am afraid of my own flag," she whispered. Noor's voice softened. "So are many brave people." Rogar fired. The first blast hit Sava's cruiser and tore armor from its side. Noor gave one order: cover her. The Sparrow Knife moved between the rebel cruiser and the loyal fleet. It was foolish. It was reckless. It was human. The battle lasted 23 minutes. It should have lasted 3, but the loyal Targon captains had never trained to fight their own doubt. When the last prisoner shuttle left the snow, Rogar's main flagship hung, disabled, above Luma 3. Sava opened a public channel. "Admiral," she said, voice shaking but clear, "your prison is empty." While prisoners tasted free air, Archon was already waking an older evil.
9 suns rise. While prisoners tasted free air, Archon was already awakening an older evil. Back on Vera Station, First Voice Archon sat in a human holding cell with 3 guards outside and 2 Mavrin witnesses nearby. He had not shouted. That should have worried them. Powerful men who lose loudly are still thinking about the room they are in. Powerful men who lose quietly are thinking about the room after it. At 03:17 station time, every light on Vera went blue. The walls hummed. The Mavrin elder felt it first. His wide hands touched the floor, and his face changed. "No," he whispered. The station vanished. Not exploded, not jumped away, vanished. 1 second, Vera Station hung wounded but real. The next, every sensor saw only empty space. Mira was in the command room when the map went blank. "Find it," she said. No one could. Then the Mavrin elder brought her a memory crystal from the secret archive. There was a system under the hall, older than the Accord, a folded space shelter, built for rulers who feared revenge. Mira stared at him. A bunker, a throne that can hide. 1 hour later, Archon's message reached every channel. He stood in the Hall of 9 Suns. The room behind him was damaged, but the golden chair remained. Around him stood loyal guards, old judges, and hostages who had not escaped before the station vanished. His voice was calm again. "Earth has broken the galaxy and called it freedom." Mira watched with her hands closed at her sides. Archon lifted a golden key. Now the 9 suns rise. The screen changed. 9 hidden gravity spears appeared on the map, ancient weapons, not aimed only at Earth. 1 near a food colony, 1 near a Naran home fleet, 1 near a Mavrin settlement, 1 near the refugee route from Luma 3, 1 buried under the moon. If they fired together, they would rip open the stable lanes between stars. Trade would collapse. Rescue would become impossible. Weak colonies would starve in the dark between systems. Archon smiled. If Earth wants a new galaxy, let it inherit ruins. The message ended. The room erupted. Some commanders wanted every human ship sent to hunt Vera. Others wanted all fleets recalled to guard Earth. Allied worlds begged for help. Refugees from Luma 3 were still in weak ships with failing air.
Mira stood in the center of it all. The choice was cruel. Protect Earth with everything and let smaller worlds burn, or protect the smaller worlds and trust Earth to hold with less. Her voice came out quiet. Send the fleet to the spears. Sergeant Chen stared at her. All of it? Mira looked toward the hidden moon on the map. Not all, but enough. Mira had to choose between guarding Earth and saving everyone else.
The home fire. Mira had to choose between guarding Earth and saving everyone else. She chose everyone else. The great human battleships split away from Earth and jumped toward the 9 spears. Fast carriers raced to border colonies. Medical ships changed course toward refugee routes. Rescue barges loaded fuel until their frames groaned. Earth kept a thin shield. Old lunar cannons, training ships, civilian defense craft, cargo haulers with armor welded to their sides. The message sent to every human home was simple. Hold the home fire. The fleet is saving the neighbors. People were afraid. Of course they were. In Lagos, families slept in subway shelters. In Mumbai, volunteers carried water into old storm tunnels. In Sao Paulo, school children packed medicine into crates for worlds they had never seen. On Mars, miners painted jokes on anti-orbital missiles because terror was easier to hold when it had bad handwriting. One reporter asked an old woman outside a shelter if she thought Earth had made a mistake by sending ships away. The old woman looked at the camera as if the question offended her. If we only save ourselves, she said, then what was the point of surviving? Her words crossed the planet in minutes. At the first spear, a human battleship found a Naran colony trapped inside the blast zone. The commander delayed the attack to evacuate them. At the second, Sava's damaged Targoon rebels arrived without orders and rammed the shield generator. At the third, freed prisoners from Luma 3 used stolen mining codes to open the outer lock. At the fourth, Mavrin engineers crawled into burning vents too small for humans and cut the trigger wire by hand. Everywhere, the people once called weak became the reason the strong did not fail. But the 9th spear woke early. Under the moon, a crater split open. A black needle rose from the dust, taller than any city tower. It pointed not at Earth's armies, but at Earth itself. The thin home shields turned toward it, too slow. The spear began to charge. On Earth, every screen showed the same terrible light growing over the moon. Mira watched from command, unable to breathe. Then one new signal appeared near Earth. Then 10. Then hundreds. Ships dropped from jump around the moon. Naran transports, Mavrin repair craft, Kasathi couriers, Sava's broken Targoon cruisers, Luma 3 mining rigs with engines strapped to their backs. No one had ordered them there. Their message came in many voices. You asked us to stand. We are standing. Then the galaxy that humanity had defended came to defend Earth.
The Silver Rain. Then the galaxy that humanity had defended came to defend Earth. They came in ships too small for the fight. Prison haulers, mining rigs, repair boats, refugee transports, rebel cruisers leaking air from old wounds. They formed a shaking wall between Earth and the black spear rising from the moon. Human command ordered them to move. They refused. Captain Noor's voice broke over the channel. Those ships cannot survive a direct blast. Sava answered from her damaged cruiser. Then do not let it be direct. The plan came together from 100 frightened minds. A Mavrin engineer found an old maintenance frequency in the spear's outer shell. A Kasathi courier captain realized the frequency could be widened. A Naran mathematician on a refugee transport calculated the timing while her children slept under the console. A human weapons officer shaped the firing pattern. No one species saved Earth. That mattered later. At the final second, the mixed fleet fired. Not at the spear, around it. Their beams crossed in a wild cage of light. The black spear's charge hit the cage and twisted inward, trapped for one impossible heartbeat. "Lunar cannons," Mira whispered. Earth fired. The moon flashed white. The spear cracked from tip to base. For one terrible moment, every window on Earth filled with silver fire. Then the weapon broke apart into dust. It fell across the dark side of the moon like glowing rain. On Earth, people looked up and cried without knowing whose name to think. On the refugee ships, former prisoners touched the glass and watched the world that had answered them survive. In the hidden fold of space, Arkan watched the failure from the golden chair. His loyal guards stepped back. Fear was his last weapon, and the galaxy had refused it. The Mavran hostages on Vera moved first. They cut power to the throne room doors. A Naren prisoner opened the inner lift. 2 old Accord judges tried to stop them and were locked inside a storage room by a child with a stolen key. By the time human and allied forces found the folded station, the revolution inside was already begun. Mira boarded with Sergeant Chin, Captain Noor, Sava, and the Mavran Elder. They walked through burned corridors and broken symbols of power. No one spoke. When they reached the Hall of 9 Suns, the throne was the only thing still standing.
The broken throne. When they reached the Hall of 9 Suns, the throne was the only thing still standing. Arkan sat on it. The 9 artificial suns above him flickered weakly. The black floor was cracked. The golden walls were scarred by smoke. The banners of conquered worlds hung in torn strips from the ceiling. Still, Arkan sat straight, as if posture could keep an empire alive. Mira stopped at the center of the hall. Behind her stood humans, Mavran, Naren, Targan rebels, Kasathi pilots, and freed prisoners from Luma 3. Some carried weapons, some carried medical packs. One Mavran child carried the broken copper collar she had worn for most of her life. Arkan looked at them and smiled with empty pride. "So this is your new order?" he asked. "A crowd?" Mira answered, "A beginning. You think they love you? No. You think they trust you? No." His smile faded. Mira stepped closer. "That is the difference between us. You needed fear. We can start with doubt." Arkan rose from the throne. "You will fail. They will argue. They will blame you. The strong will grow tired of listening to the weak. The weak will fear every hand that reaches for them. Your table will break." Mira looked around the ruined hall. Maybe he was right about some of it. Peace was harder than war. War had targets. Peace had wounds. Peace had memories. Peace had people who had been hurt so long they did not know how to stop flinching. But then the Mavran Elder stepped forward. He placed his broken collar on the black floor. Sava removed 1 gold ring from her armor, a victory ring taken from some old enemy she had never known, and placed it beside the collar. Arrow from Luma 3 placed his prisoner tag next to them. A Naren teacher added a torn page from a banned history book. One by one, others came forward. Not gifts, proof. Proof of what the old galaxy had done. Proof of what the new one must never become. Arkan watched the pile grow at the foot of his throne. For the first time, he looked small. Sergeant Chen moved to arrest him, but Mira lifted one hand. "No hidden cell," she said. "No quiet disappearance. Public trial, full record, every world sees it." Arkan's face went pale. He feared death less than truth. Months passed. The trial of Arkan broke open more secrets. Some worlds demanded revenge, others demanded isolation. Some human leaders wanted stronger control over the new alliance. Mira fought them too. because winning had not made humanity pure. It had only made humanity responsible. The open table building began on Earth under a real sky. The last question was not whether humanity could win a war, but whether it could help build a peace.
The open table. The last question was not whether humanity could win a war, but whether it could help build a peace. The first meeting of the open table began 1 year after the Hall of Nine Suns fell. The building stood on a wide plain near Geneva. It was not tall. That had been Mira's first rule. No towers, no golden throne, no ceiling high enough to make anyone feel like an insect. The chamber was circular. The smallest species sat closest to the center. The largest sat farther back. Human seats were mixed among everyone else, not raised, not guarded by symbols, not special. At the center of the room was a clear stone floor. Inside it lay the first objects placed before Arcan's broken throne: a copper collar, a Targan victory ring, a prisoner tag from Luma 3, a torn page from a banned Niran history book, and one small black bead. Mira's hidden transmitter, the thing that carried 4 quiet words and changed the galaxy. Mira stood at the center. She looked older now, not weak, just marked by the cost of surviving history. Around her sat species that had once feared each other. Some still did. The Targan rebels sat stiffly, watched by Niran delegates who had not forgotten old raids. Mavran elders kept touching their bare necks. Human officers stood near doors, but not in front of them. Trust had not arrived like sunrise. It had arrived like a tired worker, carrying 1 brick at a time. Mira began simply. "Welcome," she said. "No one here kneels." For a moment, no one moved. Then the Mavran elder placed both hands flat on the floor, not in surrender, in greeting. Others followed in their own ways. A Niran teacher bowed her head. Sava struck her chest once. Captain Noor smiled from the observer line. Sergeant Chen stood near the back with his helmet under one arm and tears in his eyes. The first argument began 12 minutes later. It was loud, very loud. The Kasathi wanted voting rules changed. The Niran wanted war crime archives protected. The Targan rebels demanded a path for their divided people. The Mavran wanted every servant collar factory destroyed before lunch. Mira listened. Then she laughed softly, not because it was easy, because it was real. Outside, children from 12 worlds played in the courtyard. They argued over a game no adult understood. A human child gave a Mavran child a red ball. A Targan child pretended not to want to join, then joined anyway. Above them, Earth's sky was clear. Humanity had not become ruler of the galaxy. That was never the point. When darkness came, humans had built a fire. When others came cold and wounded, humans made room beside it. And in that warm, stubborn light, the galaxy finally learned the most dangerous thing about Earth. Humans did not stand alone. They taught everyone else to stand with them. May this message strengthen your faith and renew your hope. Thank you for staying until the end. If this touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe to Astro Realms for more uplifting content. May God's blessings overflow in your life. See you soon.